For over 2 million years, our ancestors roamed the earth in small, nomadic hunting bands. But when humans settled in the river valleys of Mesopotamia to harvest wheat and barley, the math of survival shifted. Places like Uruk rapidly swelled to house over 50,000 residents, forcing thousands of people to live shoulder to shoulder for the very first time. Packing that many people into a single location created an immediate logistical crisis. A dense population requires a constant food supply, clean hygiene systems, and immense physical infrastructure to keep society functioning. To maintain order, leaders like King Hammurabi in ancient Babylon stepped in. He established a society built strictly on codified laws, physically cementing 282 rules into stone that placed every citizen into a highly specific social caste. As settlements expanded, the informal cooperation of small tribes could no longer manage thousands of competing interests. The coordination of massive irrigation projects and grain stores necessitated a single directing will, consolidating the management of society into a rigid hierarchy and the birth of absolute rule. Look at the Egyptian pharaohs building eternal pyramids, or Roman emperors declaring themselves dictators for life. Early conquerors shared a powerful delusion. They believed their dominance and their empires would last forever. Ancient Chinese philosophers recognized a different reality. They operated on a concept called the mandate of heaven. Power was not an eternal divine right. It was a temporary lease granted to an emperor strictly conditionally, based entirely on their merit and virtue. When leadership fails and the heavens send signs of famine or unrest, that mandate expires. No dynasty has a permanent right to rule. Every empire in human history is trapped on this exact wheel, locked into an inescapable rhythm of rising, peaking, and falling. The first phase of this cycle is always violent. It demands a singular, ruthless vision to absorb scattered tribes and fractured city-states into one unified entity. Genghis Khan spent his early life absorbing warring nomadic clans across the Mongolian mountainside. By 1206, he had united 1 million people into a highly disciplined, unstoppable cavalry force that would systematically conquer Asia. Alexander the Great operated with that same relentless pursuit of dominance. To maintain his family's power, he drove his army 240 miles in just 14 days, solely to raze the rebelling city of Thebes to the ground, terrifying the rest of the Greek city-states into total compliance. This initial ascent thrives on speed and force. By weaponizing their unity and momentum, an emerging power can easily steamroll slower, fragmented neighbors. Once the borders are locked and the surrounding enemies are subdued, an empire enters its peak. Resources pivot away from military conquest and pour into intellectual and material development. The Islamic caliphates utilized their consolidated power to build the House of Wisdom in Baghdad. They created a research center that attracted global scholars to translate past works and develop the foundations of algebra, chemistry, and sociology. In Africa, Mansa Musa leveraged his staggering gold wealth to transform Timbuktu into a capital of knowledge. He funded the University of Sankore, attracting Islamic scholars to study hundreds of thousands of manuscripts in theology, law, and literature. The ultimate metric of a golden age is not its military might. An empire secures its legacy through the enduring art, philosophy, and architectural monuments it leaves behind. But eventually, the scale becomes unmanageable. The bureaucratic weight of governing massive populations across vast territories causes the mandate to fracture. Look at this map of the Roman Empire. It eventually stretched from Britain to the Persian Gulf. Recognizing this territory was impossible to govern, Emperor Diocletian sliced the landmass in half, a desperate move to maintain order that ultimately left the West severely weakened. Internal struggles over succession accelerate the decline. The moment Alexander the Great died without a clear heir, his generals immediately fought for control, tearing his unified realm into 3 competing kingdoms and exhausting their resources. Years of political instability and economic turmoil eat away at the foundation, inviting external destruction. By 1453, the weakened Byzantine defenders inside Constantinople were completely overwhelmed by the Ottoman Empire's massive artillery forces and siege towers. The very mechanisms of success, vast scale and concentrated authority, repeatedly transform into internal friction points, leaving even the largest superpowers vulnerable to the weight of their own complexity. To the citizens living through it, the fall of their civilization feels like the end of the world. Historically, however, it operates as a necessary reset mechanism. The collapse of absolute Roman authority across Europe created fragmented power vacuums. Over centuries, this friction forced local leaders to negotiate, eventually pushing barons in England to make King John sign the Magna Carta, placing written legal limits on the crown for the first time. The destruction of the old medieval order directly fertilized the Renaissance. Thinkers like Machiavelli began to dissect power with cold realism, examining how rulers maintain control through fear rather than divine right. The decline of a hegemonic power acts as an unintended catalyst. By breaking the monopoly on ideas and resources, it allows new, diverse experiments in governance to take root in the space left behind. Societies eventually moved away from kings claiming eternal dominion and embraced a new framework. The assertion that all people are created equal, endowed with unalienable rights, laid the foundation for the modern democratic superpower. We tend to look at weathered ziggurats and shattered temples as relics of a distant past. In reality, they are urgent warnings about the temporary nature of ambition and dominance. Every modern superpower currently operating on Earth is simply occupying a slot on that exact same wheel. They are riding their ascent or enjoying their peak, waiting for their mandate to inevitably expire.